Martha phoned telling me my son drowned during his bath. I raced to the hospital, but my son was already gone. He wasn't breathing. Martha was on the floor, hitting her head again and again in sorrow. My husband, Paul, held me tightly, crying. He kept saying he could never cope with this loss. Half a year later, he brought home a pregnant woman. He said impatiently, "It's been long enough. We must move forward." I jolted awake, back on the day of my son's accident. I saw Martha shoving my son down into the bathtub. Then I woke up again. My office mates were talking about a team event planned for a Sunday, which should have been their free day. I had quit my job right after Danny's death, but now it seemed like I was still there. I couldn't grasp it. It was October the 21st, 2023, 11 a.m. I had gone back in time half an hour before Danny died. The office felt different from what I remembered. My coworker, dressed smartly with her hair up, didn't seem like she was in her 50s. She grumbled about missing a date set up by friends because of the team event. Confused, I grabbed her arm and asked, "What year is it?" She gave me a strange look and pointed to the wall. "Are you okay, Anne? It says right there." I looked. It really was October 21st, 2023, 11 a.m. I knew I had a chance to save Danny. I couldn't wait. Without asking permission, I took my bag and ran home. Before I got to the door, I heard Danny's weak sounds. Tears streamed down my face. It felt like ages since I'd heard him. After he passed, I watched his videos constantly, but my ex-husband deleted them, calling them bad luck. Pushing the door open, I saw Martha holding Danny's head underwater. I yelled and yanked Danny out of the tub just in time. He coughed and came back to his senses. He didn't understand what occurred, but seeing him alive made me cry uncontrollably. Once Danny was safe, I put him down to rest. Martha, looking guilty, claimed she was just helping Danny's weak heart by teaching him to hold his breath. Her actions might not have been planned, but I was filled with anger and slapped her face hard. Martha stumbled back from my hit. She covered her face and stood frozen. Then she quickly got angry and cursed loudly. "How dare you, you witch! Hitting me! I'll make you pay for this!" She tried to grab my hair, but I moved away fast. I turned, slapped her 2 more times, kicked her to the floor, and held her down firmly. I was much stronger, so she was trapped and couldn't budge. She cried out from the floor. "Are you trying to get killed? Wait till Paul gets back. See what he does to you." "You're the one. Asking for death," I hissed, hitting her again and again. "You hurt my son, so I'll hurt you. It's fair, right?" She beat the floor and cried, "What proof do you have that I tried to hurt Danny? He's my grandson. Nobody would believe you." Her words felt like ice water dumped on me. It was true. We had no security cameras at home. She hadn't actually caused serious harm to Danny yet. Even if I called the police, that they couldn't do anything. My grip loosened without thinking. She scrambled up from the floor, holding her head and yelling, "You witch, just wait, hitting me. I'll make my son divorce you." Suddenly, I felt calm. My father bought me a house before I married. After the wedding, Paul convinced me to sell it and buy a new one. Paul used the down payment money for his business, making it shared property. Divorce? That would be letting them off too easily. Thinking about Sarah showing up pregnant with Paul just 6 months later, they must have been together already. If I divorced him, I'd lose a lot of money, while his family would. Gain everything, enjoy their grandchild, and live well. Staying was the only way to make sure they got what they deserved. With that thought, I kicked Martha hard on the knee. She had chronic knee problems. As soon as I kicked, she screamed like a pig being killed. "Help! Murder! The daughter-in-law is crazy!" Paul came home that evening looking very angry. Who knows what stories Martha told him? He sat on the sofa, slammed his hand on the table, and yelled, "Anne, why did you hit my mother? Don't you know she isn't well?" In the past, Martha always pretended to be kind around Paul, so we looked like a happy family. We never fought. Paul never even spoke harshly to me. If he had used that tone before, I would have left right away. But now, I knew the best way to handle a tricky person like Martha was to be even trickier. So my eyes filled with tears instantly. I'm sorry, dear. You know, Danny has a heart problem. When I came home and saw Mom holding him under the water, I got so scared I just reacted without thinking and hit her. After we married, I always called him Paul, but after a few years, we were more like brother and sister. Now, looking scared like a little deer, I held his hands tightly. My sad look made him unsure what to say. After a pause, he looked away, uncomfortable. Mom was probably just playing with Danny. She wouldn't hurt her own grandson, would she? Yes, I whispered softly. I acted too fast this time. I know how much Mom does for our family. Now that I'm calm, I see how wrong I was. I carefully walked over to Martha, my voice choked up, and asked, Mom, can you forgive me? Oh, forget it, it's fine. Martha waved her hand like it was nothing. Mom knows you did it because you care about Danny and this family. How could I blame you? We acted like a loving mother and daughter-in-law. Paul nodded, pleased. He said something about working hard outside and hoping I could be a good wife, then went to his room. As soon as he left, Martha went too, and I quietly followed them. The two locked the door right after entering the room. I had to get close to listen. Paul clicked his tongue, sounding annoyed. Mom, really, why didn't you stop when you heard her coming back? If she had caught us, it would be terrible. It's because you can't handle your wife, Martha replied, sounding annoyed herself. She went on. When she was pregnant with Danny and had that, what's it called, 4D scan, it clearly showed Danny had a heart issue. She insisted on having him, and the surgery cost so much. If you ask me, you should have just given her something earlier to cause a miscarriage. Enough. I didn't know the problem could be fixed. Paul cut her off impatiently. You need to hurry and fix this. Make sure you do it when Anne is away on business next time. I know. You need to hurry and get Sarah pregnant soon. I've given up on Anne. Who knows what health issues her next baby will have? Martha reminded him. I know, you don't need to keep saying it, Paul answered. Their conversation felt like sharp needles stabbing me. Why? Why should I be left miserable, holding only a picture of Danny while their family gets to be happy? Danny, my Danny. Now that Mom is back in this life, Mom will absolutely protect you. My first thought was to send Danny to my parents. In my past life, I saw Martha didn't like Danny, so when my maternity leave ended, I sent Danny to my parents' house. But the very next day, Martha appeared there, in front of many neighbors. She grabbed my mom, crying. I came all this way to get my grandson. But Anne took Danny back home without telling me. If people hear about this, they'll think I treat Anne badly. How can I show my face? My mom always worried about her reputation. With all the neighbors watching, she couldn't stand it and quickly comforted Martha. Yes, Anne was wrong. I'll talk to her later. So that same day, my mom sent Danny back. Paul was away on a business trip then, and Martha complained to me. Forget letting your mom watch the child. There's no reason to send your grandson too. Your mom's. Every time you take him, I'll come get him. At that time, I honestly thought Martha was being thoughtful and wanted to care for her grandson. Looking back now, she likely wanted a chance to get rid of Danny quickly to make space for a healthy grandchild later. Even if I insisted on sending Danny back to my parents, not only would Paul and Martha be angry, but my mom would also refuse. I thought carefully. Martha always loved getting free things, especially events like free egg giveaways combined with blood pressure checks. No matter how far, she'd be sure to get there early. Thinking of this, I quickly joined several neighborhood online groups to find nearby free events. Among the ads, one at a supermarket stood out. Free haircuts plus a free shopping bag. The supermarket was in an odd spot. By bus, it took 30 minutes. But if you used the community's back gate, climbed a wall, and walked 5 minutes, you'd be there. However, because the community was new and roads were being built outside, the back gate was already blocked off. The wall below it was also covered in moss from not being used. Still, Martha would definitely choose climbing the wall to save $2 on bus fare. The event was the next day, and it was supposed to rain. Perfect luck for me. In the afternoon, while out walking with Danny, I went to the supermarket and grabbed an advertisement poster. Back home, I folded it and put it on the outside doorknob. Usually, after Martha wakes from her nap, she goes downstairs to collect cardboard from the trash bins. I heard her leave her room and open the front door. Then, silence. I couldn't help but smile. She must be reading the event poster. At dinner, Martha did mention she was going out tomorrow. Paul, eating his food, was clearly unhappy. "It's going to rain tomorrow. Where are you planning? To go? Why not stay home with your grandson?" "It's the weekend tomorrow. Anne is home. I don't need to stay," she replied, giving Paul a look full of meaning. As long as I was home, she couldn't do anything, so she might as well go out. "Fine," Paul gave in. "Just don't go too far. Be safe." Early the next morning, as soon as it started getting light, Martha left the house. I stood on the balcony, watching her walk towards the community's back gate with an umbrella. I kept thinking, if someone else happened to be at the back gate or going to the same supermarket, Martha could get there safely with help. Then my plan would fail. I played with Danny, silently hoping. An hour went by. The rain outside was starting to lessen, but still no word from Martha. My hope started to fade. If this plan failed, I'd have to think of another one. Danny was getting restless in bed, calling out. I walked back and forth with him, feeling worried. Another hour passed. The house was silent except for the clock ticking. Just when I was about to give up hope, my phone suddenly rang. The sound was startlingly loud in the quiet house. I answered eagerly, only to hear Martha's panicked voice. "Anne, come help me." I bit my hand to stop myself from laughing and asked with worry what happened and where she was. She cursed angrily over the phone. She explained that while climbing back over the wall, she slipped on moss and fell. At the end, she warned me not to call an ambulance because it would waste her son's money. She said she'd go to the hospital herself. I quickly agreed. After hanging up, I took Danny to my mother's house right away. Then I slowly walked to where Martha was. Martha sat by the corner of the wall, completely wet and looking messy. She groaned in pain and cursed. "This stupid property management, they won't fix the wall until someone dies." I sneered silently. She was still the same, always blaming others when things went wrong. Even though signs clearly forbade climbing the wall, she climbed anyway and then blamed others for her accident. Despite my thoughts, I hurried over, helped her up quickly, and shouted, "Mom, how did you fall like this? Get up fast. Let me take you to the hospital." Martha, hurting badly, stayed huddled in the corner. "Anne, my leg feels broken. I can't stand up. Don't move my arms like that. It hurts. Don't pull it out of place again." When we got to the hospital that afternoon, the doctor looked serious after seeing the report. He said the fall was bad and she needed to stay in the hospital. Once she was settled in her room, she went back to being unreasonable. Sitting on the hospital bed, she pointed at me and blamed me. "What's wrong with you? I told you I fell and you didn't bring the car? You made me walk to the bus stop and take the bus. Are you stupid? Even a pig isn't as dumb as you. If it wasn't for you, maybe I wouldn't need to be hospitalized." I stood beside her, looking guilty, apologizing. "Mom, I called a taxi, but it was raining and I couldn't get one fast." "If you can't get a taxi, find another way," she snapped, grinding her teeth. "I limped for half an hour. My bones nearly broke. I almost had to crawl." "Enough, sister." The older lady in the next bed couldn't stand it anymore. "Your daughter-in-law has been running around for you. What more can you say? I bet your own daughter wouldn't do this much. What business is it of yours?" Martha started to argue back, but just then Paul rushed in, looking worried. "Mom, how did you fall? How are you doing?" "I broke a bone. I need to stay in the hospital," I said, feeling guilty as tears formed in my eyes. "It's all my fault. I should have borrowed a car from the neighbors when I realized it was this serious." "Borrow a car from neighbors? Isn't that embarrassing?" Martha slapped her legs and scolded. "You're so dense. Can't you think of using your dad's car?" Before we married, my dad bought me a car that Paul mostly drove, watching Paul's. "Brother, John, get close to marriage age. Martha sometimes talked about borrowing our car for John to drive. She's always calculating, even injured. She's thinking about our car. Mom, Anne has done a lot. Please talk less, Paul told her off. He arranged for a helper to look after Martha. After sorting everything out, he was about to leave when Martha suddenly yelled, "Where are you going?" "Mom, I have something important to do. It's really urgent." Paul looked confused, but Martha stared coldly at him, acting like she didn't hear. "No matter what, you can't go. I don't care. During the day, you can have a helper, but at night, both of you must be here." "Mom, I really have something vital. I must go today." "No matter how vital, you are not going," Martha refused firmly. Meanwhile, the old woman in the next bed chimed in, making their argument very public. If the neighbor needed anything, Martha immediately told me to get it. When the neighbor's children came after work, they all came over, and she insisted we stay too. Paul's face turned very dark. Sadly, the neighbor auntie was watching them like it was a TV show, so he couldn't say much. He just walked out of the room with his phone. I followed him and heard him hiding in a corner of the hospital making a call. "I have something to handle now. How about I come see you tomorrow?" On the other end, someone sounded very upset. Their sharp voice was easy to hear through the wall. "Who delays a birthday, do you think? I'm dead already? Paul, how could you promise me then break it? Now something comes up and you can't get away? Is it your annoying wife causing trouble again?" In my past life, I knew Sarah well because she was pretty and pregnant. She often ordered Paul and Martha around. At first, Paul thought it was exciting, even saying she had spirit. But after they married and time passed, he grew tired of her and called her names privately. But when Anne, meaning Sarah, found out she was pregnant with a boy, Martha told Paul to just put up with it. Right now, Paul frowned because the voice was so loud, and he held the phone away from his ear. After the other person finished yelling, he whispered gently, "Seriously, I have something urgent. My mom fell and won't let me leave. If you don't believe me, I can show you her hospital papers." The person on the phone kept scolding, making him look embarrassed. "How about this? I'll go talk to my mom again. Maybe I can get an hour free to come see you today." After he ended the call, I walked out casually. "If your company needs you, just go. I'll take care of Mom here." "It's okay," he replied, surprised, as if he didn't expect me to let him go. For a second, gratitude showed on his face. Then he quickly went to ask Martha for permission. But Martha was stubborn. She stood with hands on her hips and scolded loudly, "That old lady next door is just waiting to laugh at me. You are not leaving, not even for a minute today." When Paul was stuck between his mom and his promise, he eventually went to the doorway and called Sarah again. Through the glass, I saw him patiently talking her down in a low, pleading voice. Finally, he hung up. Then he transferred 10,000 yuan to Sarah. Back then, I wanted to buy a dressing table for 1,000 yuan, but he accused me of wasting money. Now, he gave 10,000 yuan to the other woman without a second thought. It's truly ridiculous. After dealing with Sarah, Paul finally remembered me out in the hallway. He came out of the room and sat next to me, looking unusually grateful. "You worked hard today. My mom isn't well, that's why she spoke harshly. Don't mind her." He rested his head on my shoulder. I could smell a hint of perfume in his hair. I fought the urge to push him off and gently held his hand. Why would I argue with an elderly person? We're married. It's my duty. For the overnight stay, only one fold-out bed was provided per patient room. Surprisingly, he gave the bed and blanket to me, choosing to sleep in the hallway himself. Martha didn't stay in the hospital very long before demanding to leave, but her legs were still weak. After getting home with no helper available all day, she limped around. So she ordered me to take 2 weeks off work to care for her. I agreed immediately. Martha was thrilled that someone agreed so readily to such a difficult, unpaid task. Even Paul looked at me differently, seeming pleased. And they say a good wife causes less trouble. I married the right woman. With that, he left for work, feeling confident. On the first day I took care of Martha, she said she was hungry. I rushed to the kitchen, made a bowl of chicken noodle soup, and brought it to her in under 10 minutes. While eating the soup, she made a snide comment. "So you knew how to cook all along? I should have made you cook sooner. I've been looking after you all this time for nothing." But as she talked, her face suddenly changed. She pulled a small clump of chicken feathers from the soup. "Are you blind? Can't you clean the chicken properly? Are you trying to make me sick on purpose?" She slammed the bowl down, pointed at me, and yelled, "Are you brainless? You didn't even clean the feathers? Are you doing this deliberately to make me disgusted?" I acted scared and trembled. I I didn't know. I've never really cooked before." She waved her hand dismissively. "Okay, fine. From now on, bring all the food items into the room when you cook. For the next meal, I'll show you how." At dinner, she told me to chop ribs. Thwack. The knife hit the ribs but didn't cut through. She got impatient. "And put some strength into it." "Okay," I yelled back. I swung the knife hard at the ribs. They didn't break, but the knife bounced off, flew up towards the ceiling, then came back down onto the bed, landing just an inch from Martha's leg. Martha leaped off the bed, terrified, shouting, "Oh my gosh, you're trying to kill me. You scared me half to death." After yelling, she called her son again, crying, "Paul, come home quick. Your wife isn't feeding me, and she almost killed me. There's going to be a disaster here." When Paul got back, he was clearly very annoyed. He slammed the bedroom door shut and faced Martha, complaining, "Anne has never cooked. The fact she agreed to look after you is good enough. Why force her to cook ribs and chicken?" "Mom, are you doing this just to cause problems?" His mother, frustrated, replied, "I'm giving her a chance to learn. Otherwise, it's takeout every single day. Who can live like that?" "But did she learn? We still had to order takeout tonight. You keep messing up my work schedule, and Sarah is getting mad at me because of it." Paul argued back. Martha banged on the bed, shouting, "Your mother is nearly dead, and you're worried about Sarah? The doctor said I need healthy soup. Let me tell you, if this isn't sorted out, don't even think about visiting Sarah. Come straight back after work to take care of me." Getting even angrier, Paul said, "You just don't get it. Always causing trouble." Furious, he stormed out. We happened to meet at the door. He glanced at me, looking awkward, and said, "You don't have to cook anymore. Just order food." Head down, pretending to wipe tears, I apologized. "I'm sorry. It's all my fault I don't know how to cook. Mom can't even get a proper hot meal." With a sigh, he patted my hand gently. "It's okay. Taking care of Mom is hard enough. I'll sort out the food situation." After thinking all night, he finally decided to call Carol and ask her to come help. Carol wasn't employed and stayed home with her child, so she happily agreed to cook for Martha for the $2,000 a month. Martha loved this idea, saying, "Anne can't cook, but at least my grandson will be looked after. Danny still has plenty of toys. They can all go to my grandson." The next afternoon, Carol arrived with her son Kevin, an energetic 4-year-old. In the past, he always broke Danny's toys or put insects in my clothes. Seeing him always made me uncomfortable. When he came in smiling, he greeted me happily. I quickly took him aside, gave him a piece of chicken, and promised him $50 allowance each week if he behaved. His eyes widened at the money, and he eagerly asked what behaving well meant. I told him gently, "You haven't seen your grandma for a while. When you see her, shouldn't you give her a big hug?" Hearing this, he ran off and burst into Grandma's room. Grandma was overjoyed to see him. Full of excitement, Kevin ran towards her, jumped high, and landed right in her lap. Thump! Grandma screamed like a pig. "You little rascal! You broke my leg!" Although only 4, Kevin weighed over 50 pounds. Grandma initially had one broken leg, but Kevin's jump caused the other leg to break too. When Paul rushed to the hospital, his face was dark with anger. Holding his arm, Grandma cried and whined, "A good daughter-in-law brings good fortune. All these issues started just because your wife can't cook." Paul, losing patience, cut her off. "One leg or two, she still has to rest in bed. It doesn't matter much if she rests a few months longer. Both your daughter and daughter-in-law are here. I need to go." Angrily, Grandma yelled, "If you walk out that door today, I won't consider you my son anymore." People nearby were watching. Paul, annoyed, said, I was just going to have dinner with someone. I need to get back. Oh, so you were having dinner with your side piece? Grandma shot back. This surprised Paul, and he looked guilty. I'm sorry, it's my fault. I misunderstood you. I thought you were just some spoiled rich girl who only cared about having fun. Sympathetically, I waved my hand. No problem. When Mom needs me, I have to be there. In the middle of the night, Martha groaned about needing the toilet. I kept my eyes shut tight, pretending to be asleep. Annoyed, she punched my waist hard, cursing. Are you a pig? I need the bathroom. I can't hold it. She got angrier and hit me again. You stupid pig! I need to pee and I can't wait. Startled, I jumped out of bed, half awake, intending to help her. But before I got there, it was like a floodgate opened and everything just came out. She lost control, hitting the bed in misery. Oh heavens, I'm old, and I just pooped myself. Seeing the bed covered, I was shocked and hurried to help her to the bathroom. But while doing so, I slipped on the bedpan full of waste and we both fell into the mess. Before falling, though, I grabbed onto her tightly, landing on top of her. Covered in filth, she screamed in pain. Someone killed me! Paul, help! Paul, woken up, looked both mad and confused. He stared at the mess on the floor for a long time before asking, Mom, did you have an accident? Even in front of her son, her face turned red. She looked around, then suddenly stared hard at me as if I was the one to blame. She lifted her head and accused me loudly. It was her! She must have put something in my food. I knew it was too good to be true when she offered to care for me at night. She just wanted to see me embarrassed. Paul, finding it hard to believe, turned to me. Is what Mom said true? Did you really drug her? Smiling sadly, I reassured him. What are you suggesting? Your sister cooked? Your nephew served the food? And you poured water for Mom? I didn't touch anything. Even if I wanted to poison her, I had no chance. He thought for a second, then turned to Carol. Did you wash the vegetables well? Carol shook her head hard. It wasn't the vegetables. My stomach feels fine. If there was something wrong with the food, I'd be the first to feel sick. She had a point. In her past life, every time Carol ate food, her mother-in-law cooked, she ended up in the hospital. At first, her husband thought she was just disobeying her mother-in-law on purpose, and they fought terribly. But later, they discovered it was because the vegetables weren't cleaned properly. After that, Carol always did the cooking at home. It's not me, and it's not Carol either. But her mother-in-law kept having these accidents, which didn't seem like simple stomach problems. Suspicious, she looked accusingly at Kevin. Kevin was always getting into trouble often, bringing bugs inside to add flavor to meals. Once, I found a large green worm in my food, which terrified me and gave me a fever that night. Before Paul could say anything, Kevin suddenly confessed, It was me. I put something good in Grandma's bowl. He pulled out a small bag of white powder from his pocket and gave it to Paul. He said his grandma told him it was good stuff and asked him to put it in his aunt's bowl. Thinking it was good, he decided he had to give it to his sick grandma first. Seeing the bag, Grandma suddenly shrieked. She tried to run over, but her legs gave out and she fell into the yellow mess on the floor. Now completely dirty and smelly, she forgot her pride, sat on the floor, slapped her thighs, and yelled frantically, You bad boy! You're framing me! Tell the truth! Did your mother tell you to drug your aunt? You naughty kid! You do bad things and blame your grandma. Hearing this, Carol quickly pulled Kevin behind her, acting like she wanted nothing to do with it, and said unhappily, Mom, stop talking nonsense. Why would I drug my sister-in-law? It makes no sense. You're the one using the child. Kevin was misled by you. The mother-in-law's face went red, then white. She desperately tried to signal Carol to take the blame, but Kevin suddenly cried out, Grandma, why are you blinking so much? Are your eyes broken? Even someone as slow as Paul understood now. His face turned completely black. He frowned and scolded angrily. Mom, you've gone too far. Anne has been taking care of you all this time. How could you still plot to drug her? Grandma turned pale. She opened her mouth, but before she could speak, I quickly went forward and tugged Paul's sleeve. It's okay, dear. Don't blame your mom. Maybe I did something wrong that made Mom upset. It's my fault I don't even know how to cook properly. Anne, this isn't your fault. Paul looked upset. He cleaned up his mother and told everyone to go back to bed. But he didn't go back himself. Instead, he sat alone on the balcony, smoking cigarette after cigarette, looking rather sad. When I went out, he shifted to make space for me. After finishing another pack, he looked at me thoughtfully. Do you think maybe my mom drugged you secretly when I wasn't here? She was his mother, after all. I naturally had to deny it. Blinking innocently, I replied, Oh, how could that be? Mom isn't like that. But he seemed lost in thought, murmuring, Could it be Mom secretly drugged you before? Is that why Danny was born with a heart condition? I knew Danny's illness wasn't caused by his mother-in-law, but thinking about Danny made me quiet. Busy caring for my mother-in-law lately, I hadn't known how Danny was doing at my parents'. When I snapped back to reality, I felt warm breath on my neck. He pressed his face into my neck and whispered, darling, why don't we have another baby? Laughing, I replied, I'm busy looking after your entire family and you want another baby with me? I shook my head. Mom's health isn't good. I want to focus on her first. We can talk about kids later. Hearing this, Paul looked a bit guilty. He sighed. I ignored things before. I never imagined my mom would treat you this way. So, what do you want? I'll buy it for you. Looking straight at him, I said softly, I just want you to have dinner with me. He looked surprised. Just that? Yes, I said, hugging him and acting sweet. We haven't eaten out together in so long. I just want a simple meal with you, can we? This seemed to make him feel even guiltier. The next day, he reserved a table at a fancy restaurant where meals cost around $5,000 per person. For this dinner, I got dressed up. I wore a dress I hadn't put on in years and styled my hair. He looked edgy, and when our eyes met, I saw surprise in his. The same look Paul had when he first fell for me after we met at work. He pursued me intensely back then, but after marriage, I slowly swapped my fitted clothes for baggy t-shirts, and he stopped paying attention. Now he looked amazed, but seeing his face just made me want to be sick. At dinner, he gave me a box. Bought this on my last work trip. Hope you like it. I opened it. Inside was a shiny necklace that cost 5 figures. I would never have dreamed of such a price before, and he certainly wouldn't have bought it for me. Maybe he bought it for Sarah and forgot to give it to her. After all, his last business trip was a month ago. I happily asked him to put it on me. I love it. It's something I always wanted, but never felt I could afford. I gave his cheek a quick kiss. Thank you, dear. You're so kind to me. A trace of guilt crossed his face. During the meal, his phone wouldn't stop ringing. Even though he rejected the call several times, the caller persisted, calling again and again. After more than 10 missed calls, he finally answered, annoyed. Can't you get it? I'm really busy now. I couldn't hear the reply, but he glanced at me secretly, then covered his mouth and whispered into the phone. Okay. I'll come see you tomorrow. Fine. After hanging up, he casually explained, a client is sick and insists I visit to discuss business personally, or they won't give us the order. I leaned against his shoulder. You should go handle your business meeting. Leave things at home to me. Perhaps feeling guilty, or maybe because he hadn't seen me dressed up in a while. When I took a photo of us and asked him to post it online, he surprisingly agreed. Paul hired a nanny. Martha had Carol, looking after her. The house seemed peaceful again. But naturally, I couldn't let them stay relaxed for long. The next day, Paul woke early, shaved, and put on a nice tie. He was probably thinking about his date that evening. He seemed cheerful, humming a little song as he left quickly. Right after he left, Carol also got dressed up nicely and went out. I knew exactly where she was going. In my previous life, Carol had an affair with the old man living downstairs. The old man's wife had died, leaving him lonely but wealthy. Carol's own husband was not only cheap, but also violent. So, pretending to visit her mother, Carol would sneak off to meet the old man. Eventually, Carol got over $1 million from him, divorced her husband, and lived comfortably. Knowing the timing was right, I used a burner phone to send an anonymous message to Carol's husband. Then, I messaged the old man's 2 sons. After sending the texts, I calmly switched off the phone and listened carefully for noise downstairs. Within 30 minutes, Carol's husband's furious yell echoed from below. "Carol, come out! I know you're in there!" Martha, hearing the noise, stretched her neck out, curious. "Why do I hear my son-in-law? Is someone named Carol downstairs?" I ran downstairs like lightning. "I'll go check what's happening." Carol's husband was efficient. He brought several friends. When Carol refused to open the door, they simply kicked it in. As they charged inside, Carol wasn't even fully dressed. Seeing this, Carol's husband exploded with rage. Without giving her a chance to speak, he punched Carol hard in the face, grabbed her hair, and started slapping her repeatedly. He cursed loudly. How dare you cheat on me? I'll kill you!" Carol, caught in the act, sat on the floor, shielding her face, and cried, "Help! Murder! Isn't there any law?" "I am the law today," he yelled, continuing to punch Carol's face until she was bleeding and her front teeth were knocked loose. A large crowd had gathered to watch. I quickly called Paul. "Paul, something terrible is happening. Come back fast. Your sister is being attacked." As soon as Carol heard Paul's name mentioned, she screamed desperately, "Brother, your brother-in-law is trying to kill me. Come back and save me." Before she finished, Carol's husband grabbed her hair again and dragged her outside, still yelling, "You shameless woman, I'll kill you." The old man, having never witnessed such violence, got scared and passed out right there. Paul, frantic on the phone, urged, "Anne, stop him for now. I'm on my way." Just then, the old man's family arrived. Seeing their father on the ground, they assumed Carol had assaulted him. They immediately grabbed her, demanding answers. Carol, already beaten up, thought these men were sent by her husband. So she grabbed one and started fighting back fiercely. With 5 or 6 people now brawling, Paul arrived right in the middle of the chaos. He tried to pull Carol's husband off her, but the husband turned and punched him, then started kicking Paul without mercy. He gasped and swore, "None of you are decent. I'll beat all of you." Carol's husband knew how to fight and was used to violence. He kept hitting Paul in the stomach until Paul couldn't defend himself, just groaning in pain on the ground. Both Paul and Carol ended up needing hospital treatment. Carol got off relatively lightly, losing some hair and 2 front teeth. But Paul was seriously hurt. Carol's husband had unleashed all his fury on him, resulting in broken ribs, a broken nose, bruises all over, a swollen face, and a crooked mouth from the beating. The old man's sons rushed him to the hospital just in time. He'd had a heart attack from the shock, but survived. Although the situation didn't escalate further legally, the 2 sons were enraged, believing their father had been tricked. They demanded Carol return the money, threatening legal action otherwise. Carol, afraid of being sued, had no option but to give back the money. Martha fainted instantly when she heard the news and had to be revived by the maid splashing cold water on her. She wanted to go to the hospital but couldn't move from her bed, leaving her to worry helplessly at home. Paul was in too much pain to speak clearly. Despite the mayhem, he still remembered his planned date with Sarah that day. As soon as he was out of the emergency room, he started making calls. "Sweetheart, I can't make it again today." Yes, a lot has been happening at home lately." "Yes, we can't go to the zoo again." "But maybe wait a little. I'm quite injured this time." "We can see the monkeys another time." I couldn't hear the response, but he frowned impatiently and said, "The house is chaotic. Can't you understand? I know that monkey looks like me. You've mentioned it many times. But like I said, I can't go now. Why don't you go alone?" Sarah was still shouting on the phone, clearly very angry about Paul canceling repeatedly. After all, Paul used to drop everything for her whenever she called. Paul listened, his expression growing darker. It was easy to imagine Sarah accusing him of not caring, not prioritizing her, not seeing her for days. She probably thought he'd lost interest. After 5 minutes of listening silently, whatever Sarah said must have finally pushed him too far because Paul suddenly yelled, "Damn it! You look like a monkey yourself!" He slammed the phone down furiously. Honestly, despite all his later complaints about Sarah, I'd never seen Paul speak harshly to her before he died. Behind the facade of a happy, loving couple, there's always someone else dealing with all the unpleasant realities at home. I thought that with Paul constantly breaking plans, Sarah might visit him at the hospital, but I was wrong. Maybe it was the group pictures on Paul's online posts, or maybe because Paul always gave excuses lately and couldn't see her. Sarah couldn't stand it anymore, but she came looking for me instead. When I went back to get some personal items for Paul and Carol, someone stopped me downstairs. To my surprise, it was Sarah. She wore a cap, a tight top, and jeans that highlighted her figure holding a stack of flyers. Even with a mask on, I'd recognize her anywhere. She pretended I didn't know her, acting like a salesperson promoting kids' swimming lessons. I don't know how long she practiced that sales talk, but she sounded very real, making it seem genuine. Finally, she took out her phone. "Let's add each other. You can think about it or talk it over with your husband. When you decide, just contact me." After all that talk, she really just wanted to spy on my online profile. Once she was far away, I quickly posted online. They say he visited several shops on his business trip until he found the perfect one. My husband is so thoughtful. The picture showed the necklace Paul gave me. Before posting, I made sure only Sarah could see it. Knowing Sarah's short temper, she'd likely make trouble for Paul again. Just as I predicted, when I got back to the hospital room, I heard Paul sounding irritated on the phone. "Stop making things difficult, okay? I'm really hurt. How could I have possibly made up with her? Can you seriously believe that? Okay, fine. I'll buy it for you." "All right." He hung up and sent 20,000 to Sarah. I don't know what hold Sarah had on Paul, but from what I saw, she must have gotten tens of thousands from him already. After he hung up, I walked into the room. As soon as he saw me, he quickly hid his phone under the pillow and awkwardly said, "Oh, it was a client. Heard I was sick and insisted on visiting, but there's a rule here for 3 bedrooms. Only one helper allowed per bed. No one else can come in." Surprisingly, such a rule actually existed. No wonder Sarah couldn't find him at the hospital. I asked him, surprised, "Did you explain that clearly to her?" He nodded. "Explained it. She's not coming anymore." "As long as it's explained, that's good," I replied smoothly. I stood up, went to the least obvious corner, secretly took a photo of Paul and me, and posted it online with the caption, "Husband says when you're weakest, you need your family close. Left for a minute, and he says he misses me like crazy." Visible only to Sarah. Soon after my post, Paul's phone rang again. He looked sick when he saw who was calling, then glanced at me uncomfortably. "It's a client call. Can you handle it?" "Sure, I'll leave first." I politely stepped out of the room. Even through the glass, you could see Paul was barely holding it together. Because his face hurt, he could only move half his mouth when talking. "Will you ever stop? I really can't have another person come in here. You want to come keep me company? Are you mad? What if she sees you? If I don't let you in, I can't prove I'm innocent, right?" "Fine. I'll talk to her later." Outside, I almost burst out laughing. Someone who is the other woman still needs proof of innocence from others? As expected, when I went back into the room, Paul carefully suggested, "How about you leave at night? I'll get a nurse to stay with me." I pretended to hesitate. The hospital already registered the names for nighttime care. It can't be changed. "Can't be changed?" His voice went up with excitement, which pulled at his injury. He suddenly covered his face, sucking in sharp breaths of air. "It can't be changed?" I touched his hand gently, looking emotional. "Darling, don't worry about me being tired. Taking care of you is what I should do." He just stood there, looking stunned at me. After a moment, a smile touched his lips, looking like he might cry, while he and Sarah were arguing about me not being replaceable. As his helper, I quickly posted online. I suggested getting a night nurse, but my husband insisted he needs me by his side and can't manage without me. Being married so long, we're not embarrassed about it. Shortly after that post, Paul's phone rang yet again. From far off, Sarah's angry voice could be heard, loud enough to shake the room. "Paul, you lied to me again. You jerk!" The argument ended when Paul transferred 50,000 yuan to Sarah. Paul's wallet seemed like a magic pouch. Whenever Sarah wanted money, he could somehow produce it. After we married, he used all the money I brought from my family to try different businesses. Although he wasn't super successful like big company owners, he should have saved a decent amount. But no matter how much he made, he never told me. If I asked, he'd snap that it was his money. I had no right to ask. And he could just give me back my initial family money. While I was thinking about this, Paul called me over to help order food. He was extremely fussy about food, and after eating rich meals constantly, he found the hospital food awful. He gave me his phone, swiped it open, and said he wanted a lunchbox from John's place. Then he asked what I wanted, telling me to order for both of us to bring back. I took the phone and was browse the menu when a message notification appeared. "Hey, what have you been up to?" It was Paul's brother, John. John had always been spoiled by Martha. He didn't finish middle school and hung out with rough types. Sometimes he didn't even have money for food and would ask Paul for cash. Lately, word was he got into gambling, which earned him a lot of scolding from Martha. Seeing his message grabbed my interest. While Paul rested his eyes, I quickly sent John a screenshot of a large bank deposit, then immediately deleted it from the chat. John got excited instantly. "Bro, you have that much money?" Seeing that, I felt calmer. I coolly replied, "Sent to the wrong person. What's up?" Soon he replied, "Okay, I'll just say it. Bro, this guy Capone says he wants to include me in a big deal. If I invest 500,000, it'll double in under 6 months." Paul opened his eyes and looked at me confused. "Haven't you decided yet? I'm starving. Hurry up." I texted John, "Call me," then quickly erased the chat history and gave the phone back to Paul. Just as he took it and put it on the nightstand, John called. These days, Paul had been secretly calling Sarah behind my back. Now, seeing it was John calling, he suddenly looked relieved and answered on speakerphone. John's voice was full of excitement. "Bro, are you really that loaded? I was going to ask you for 20,000, then ask mom and sis to help out too. But now, you can handle it all yourself." Paul frowned, glanced at me quickly, and said, "Don't talk nonsense. I don't have that kind of cash. Go on, what is it?" "Right, okay. I'll keep it quiet. It's about that guy Capone, the one I hang with. He has some inside info and wants me to invest in something. Bro, if you just lend me 50,000, I'll pay you back 70,000 in 6 months." "Forget it," Paul scolded, frowning. "That Capone guy you mentioned is bad news. Cut ties with him now." He was about to hang up, but John quickly yelled, Wait. Bro, how about lending me 20,000? You're so rich you can spare 20,000 easily. I'll sort out the rest with mom and sis. Bro, please don't brush me off. This chance is too good to miss. Capone said if I don't get the money in 5 days, he'll find someone else." The more Paul listened, the deeper his frown got. Finally, he said firmly, "Not 1 cent. Call's over." And he ended the call. I asked with some worry, "What's wrong?" Paul was still mad, saying fiercely, "When will my brother ever grow up? Hanging around bad people all day, always borrowing money. If he gets into real trouble someday, he'll probably still be clueless." Even though John was unreliable, he did listen to Paul over the years. If Paul hadn't stopped him, John would have caused major problems. But Paul being so sensible now was a problem for me. Softly, I suggested, "Then just lend it to him. It's only 20,000, not a huge amount. Even if he loses it all, he'll learn something. Cut ties with Capone. In the long run, it might be good." He looked up at me for a moment, finally sighed, and said, "You're just too trusting. If he invests this 20,000, that Capone guy will just find ways to squeeze more money out of him. It won't stop at just a few, tens of thousands later." He looked stressed, rubbed his forehead, then waved his hand. "Forget him. Go get the food first." After leaving the hospital, I called Martha. Even though she was stuck in bed at home, she acted like she had orders to give every day. She'd asked me to update her on Paul's condition, or ask me to buy things for Paul. As soon as I called, the old lady started yelling energetically. She complained the maid was hard to manage lately and that Kevin was tormenting her, asking when I'd come back to wait on her. I told her Paul would be released over the weekend and casually mentioned John asking Paul for money earlier. Hearing it was about a loan, Martha immediately started scolding again. John never stops causing problems. He's gambling again, isn't he? Lucky his brother has some sense. Otherwise, who knows what trouble he'd cause. How much did he ask for this time? I smiled slightly and whispered softly, borrow 50,000. But Paul said he only has a 20,000. He told John to figure out how to get the rest from you. Get from me? Martha's voice shot up in disbelief. Where would I get money? Why does John need so much? I'm not lending. I quickly added, John needs it for an investment. Oh, and John said he has inside information this time. Invest 50,000 and it doubles in 6 months. Then he can pay Paul back 70,000 with interest. An extra 20,000. Even over the phone, I could sense Martha's eyes widening. So much money? Why wouldn't Paul lend it? Is he crazy? He said he doesn't have the money. He told John to ask you and Carol for help. Damn it! Martha suddenly got angry at being asked for money. He doesn't want to lend it and pushes it onto me? Wait, I'll talk to him. When I got back with the food, I heard Paul shouting anxiously in the ward. Not lending, not lending. Don't you know what John is really like, Mom? How can you always take John's side? Paul was getting his IV drip changed, and his frustration made the needle in his hand leak some blood. He was frantically trying to press it while also rushing to make a call, accidentally putting the phone on speaker. Martha was yelling on the other end. Lend it! Your sister is having problems. Where can we find money? I don't have any either. You gave that girl money, why not lend it to your brother for an investment? What investment? Paul frowned so hard his forehead wrinkled. That's clearly gambling. If I give him this money, it's like throwing it away. It's gone. He used to. Gamble, not this time. It's an investment, Martha insisted. Your brother rarely tries to be responsible, and he'll give you an extra 20,000. Why can't you trust him this once? It's you two I can't trust, Paul interrupted sharply. I am not lending this money. If you want to lend it, you do it. Ignoring Martha's curses on the phone, he hung up. Just then, Paul's phone rang again. He answered, and Sarah's overly sweet voice came through. Paul, do you still have money? Send some more to me. This time I'll treat it as a loan from me to you. My brother got that girl pregnant. Her parents are making a scene at our house. My dad suggested giving them 20,000 for the marriage settlement and marrying the girl. Paul, already annoyed, heard this and got furious. He cursed. Money, money, money. That's all you care about. If my brother can't afford a girlfriend, do you all think I'm some kind of idiot? I've been in the hospital for days. I haven't heard one word of concern from you. All you talk about is money, he said angrily. I don't want to discuss this now. We can talk when I'm out of the hospital. Seeing him hang up, pretending I knew nothing, I quickly walked in, but he stared at me like he didn't recognize me. After a silent moment, he thought aloud. I see now. It's only when things get tough that you find out who you can really count on. Sarah didn't get money today. Tomorrow, she'd definitely try to meet Paul when he was discharged. That night, I posted again online. My husband sighed, saying when trouble hits, I'm the most reliable one. The picture was a screenshot of a huge money transfer record I found online. As expected, the next day, just after Paul got home, Sarah called. You must have been avoiding me lately. I don't care. You have to give me 20,000 today. If my brother's girlfriend leaves because of the settlement money, I can't promise what my brother will do to you. In my past life, I met Sarah's brother at their wedding. He was a big guy, tattoos all over his arms, wearing a thick gold chain. He looked very threatening. But Paul had never met Sarah's brother. He assumed her brother was just like John, all talk. Paul's face went pale suddenly. Are you threatening me? Sarah sounded pleased. I'm not threatening you. Remember what you promised? You'd treat me well. You'd be good to me and my family too. I told my family all about it. But now, not only are you avoiding me, but you're also hiding that you have money when my family needs it most. If my brother doesn't come after you, then who else would he go to? He finally understood Sarah wasn't kidding. He cursed bitterly. Your brother is a loser. Talking about finding a girlfriend but making his sister go out and basically sell herself? He's truly shameless. I'd rather just marry your brother's girlfriend myself. Say that again! Sarah's brother suddenly grabbed the phone, furious, and yelled, Greenview community, just wait for me. I didn't expect Sarah and her brother to show up so fast. He came stomping over, a tall man, nearly 1.9 meters, muscles bulging, face looking really angry. He even carried a wrench and a bottle of wine. Paul realized he'd provoked someone dangerous. He turned white with fear and started limping nervously around the room. He wanted to hide, but Sarah kept calling his phone nonstop, threatening to come upstairs and kick the door down. Afraid I'd find out, Paul had no choice but to go face him. Sarah's brother saw Paul approach, grabbed his shirt collar, and yelled loudly, Did you call me a loser? Paul looked at the brother's aggressive posture and was so scared his legs turned to jelly. He couldn't say a word. The brother, seeing Paul acting weak, shoved him to the ground and looked down at him scornfully. You act like a loser yourself, but dare to call others losers? He smashed the wine bottle against the wall and pointed the broken end at Paul, shouting, My sister is pregnant now and it's yours. So, how are we fixing this? Paul was shocked. That can't be. I'm telling you, it's yours, so it's yours, the brother threatened, poking the broken bottle near his face. Either you divorce and marry my sister, or you give me 20 grand and we call it even. Otherwise, I'm paying your wife a visit. Although Paul had considered divorcing for Sarah before, her constant demands for money lately made him unsure. Plus, with Sarah's brother looking so fierce and threatening, he froze up and seemed unable to think clearly. He looked at Sarah, then nervously glanced at her brother. After hesitating, he weakly asked, 20 grand? Can this really settle everything? It can, all right? Paul took out his phone to send the money to Sarah, but after trying several times, his face went pale with shock. He tried a few more times before finally looking up and asking hesitantly, Can I go upstairs for a minute? Getting the brothers okay, he rushed upstairs, burst into his mother's room, and yelled, Mom, did you take my money? His mother, lying in bed, was startled by his sudden entry and clutched her chest. What are you talking about? I transferred 50 grand to John early this morning. Hearing this, Paul nearly lost it. He stared at his mother and shouted furiously, Mom, didn't I tell you that Capone guy is bad news? Why did you give him the money? Oh, why are you yelling? His mother said happily. Didn't John promise to give you an extra 20 grand in 6 months? You'll make money from this. Realizing he couldn't argue with his mother, Paul took a deep breath and controlled his anger. Okay, now call John. Tell him I urgently need 20 grand back. I'll return it in a few days. His mother reluctantly picked up her phone to call John. After trying many times without success, she started to panic. Oh no, John always keeps his phone on. I hope nothing happened. Paul, whose phone was ringing nonstop with calls from Sarah, didn't have time to worry about John now. He urgently pleaded with his mother, Mom, why don't you lend me 20 grand now? I'll give it back once. I sort things out with John in a few days. His mother, unhappy, clutched her pocket. Why do you need my money? Frustrated, Paul pointed outside the window and yelled angrily. Because you wanted me to have a son. Now Sarah is pregnant. They're all outside and her brother is demanding 20 grand or he'll kill me. Martha followed his finger and saw the scary tattooed man outside holding a broken bottle. She got scared. Panicked, she patted her pockets. Mom, this isn't enough for 20 grand. How about this? You go talk to Anne, ask her to accept Sarah, and you can bring Sarah home. Paul protested, But the baby isn't mine. Martha was shocked and cried out, What? How shameless can she be? If it's not yours, why are you scared? Paul paced back and forth anxiously. I felt something was off last week. She kept asking for money. Mom, you introduced me to Sarah, and you secretly transferred money to John. You figure this out. I'm done, Paul said, sounding defeated, leaving Martha, speechless. She stared eyes wide and exclaimed, I won't give it. I don't have money. Go ask Anne. Make up some excuse. She's naive and has money. She'll definitely give it to you. Unable to get out of bed, Martha grabbed her phone and called me while shouting at Paul. I heard their whole conversation from the next room. When the phone rang, I pretended I didn't know anything and went into the room to ask what was wrong. Paul opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. Before he could speak, Martha cut in. "Anne, Paul has some problems now. Can you go borrow 20 grand? From your dad for Paul, just in case." Paul quickly nodded. "Yes, Anne, I'm having some business issues. Can you lend me 20 grand? Oh no, 10 grand is enough. I'll pay you back once I sort things out with John." I looked at him coldly. When he finished, I spoke calmly. "Paul, I want the truth." He looked flustered for a second, then clenched his hands tightly and stayed silent. I went closer, held his hand gently, and said, "Paul, we are husband and wife. You can tell me anything. Even if you committed a crime, we'll handle it together." Surprised, his eyes got a little red. He hesitated, his voice choked. "And what if I cheated on you?" I smiled at him. "Men are never loyal. As long as you're willing to change and come back home, I'll be waiting." He lowered his head, wiped his eyes, looking deeply moved. I stared at him quietly until he calmed down. Then he told me everything about Sarah, including that Sarah was from a village near his hometown and used him to get established in the city. He also admitted he was tempted by Sarah and wanted a healthy son, so he went along with the girl Martha arranged. He said Sarah couldn't be carrying his child because he had always used protection. I felt a storm of emotions. I couldn't understand why he'd hurt another child just for a healthy son. I couldn't grasp how years of feelings could be destroyed by a treatable illness. Pushing down my complex feelings, I looked at him strangely and asked, "Now that I know, why are you still giving? Her money?" He was stunned for a moment, then his eyes lit up as he suddenly understood. "Right! That fixes the problem, doesn't it?" But then he worried. "Sarah's brother looks pretty scary. I don't know what he might do. What if he beats me up if I don't pay?" I squeezed his hand, comforting him softly. "If he hurts you, he'll go to prison for sure. Do you think he'd do something that stupid for his sister? Why would you be afraid of him? We live in a society with laws. What can he really do to you?" I smirked. "He's not coming after me anyway, so I have nothing to worry about." Paul didn't know, but how could I not know? Sarah's brother had been jailed 3 times and was just recently released. Paul was taken aback by my reasoning, then took a deep breath and said with relief, "You're right. Now that you know, I'm not scared of him revealing anything, and I really don't want any more contact with that woman. She's too awful, always asking for money." He sighed. "With so much going on at home lately, I finally realize who I can depend on." I looked at him and said, "Then I'll sue Sarah to get back our shared money. Can I?" He hesitated slightly, so I added, "Mom transferred all your money to John. If John doesn't return it, we won't have enough for next month's business stock. Besides, Sarah and her brother are treating you like a fool. Are you just going to accept it?" With a dark expression, he finally nodded firmly. "All right." Sarah and her brother waited for Paul for a long time. When he didn't appear, they got angry and started banging on the door, yelling insults outside. Martha was so scared she hid in her room, shaking. Paul was also quite frightened. "Thank goodness I told you everything. Otherwise, those two wouldn't have left with just 20,000. Sarah and her brother caused a scene at the door all afternoon but got nothing. In the end, they left, grumbling. Paul quickly gathered the documents for a lawsuit and took Sarah to court. Sarah was furious. On the trial day, she and Paul yelled insults at each other. "You idiot. I saw through you long ago. You've been hiding because you just wanted sex and then ditched me." Paul fought back just as hard. "You want tens of thousands for every time we slept together? Who do you think you are, some expensive call girl? You deserve to be called out as a moocher." Their angry exchange didn't sway the court. The judge ordered Sarah to return all the money Paul had transferred to her. Sarah had already given the money to her brother. Asking Sarah to return it meant making her brother give it back. Her brother couldn't accept that. So, that day, he hired someone to break Paul's arm right outside the courthouse. They even cut off one of his fingers. Sarah wasn't giving up easily either. She turned all their chat messages during their affair into a 30-page presentation and posted it on the main entrance of the shopping mall where Paul had his business. It created a huge scandal. The mall became gossip central, trending online for 3 days straight. Whenever people passed the mall, they'd point and curse, saying things like, "This man has no shame. Unwilling to give but happy to take, then runs away." The business's reputation was ruined, and sales started dropping. They had no choice but to refund Paul's rent and ask him to leave. Paul lay bleeding on the ground outside the courthouse. On the day he was rushed to the hospital, Martha got a call from John. The $50,000 he invested did make some money initially, but later, this guy Capone tempted him into gambling with the profits. Not only did John lose everything, but he also ended up owing a lot on high-interest loans. He cried on the phone, begging Martha for $1 million, or Capone's men would beat him to death. Before the call even ended, Martha was rigid with fear. When she recovered, she shakily took out all her retirement savings, plus the money Sarah had returned to Paul, and gave it all to John to pay his debt. When that wasn't enough, she thought about asking Carol for a loan. But Carol, knowing everything and scared of Sarah coming after her, had already moved away with Kevin overnight. Martha came to me, asking for money. I just shrugged. No money. By the time I reached the hospital, Paul's condition was stable. He lay in bed, pale, staring at me as if terrified of losing sight of me. Then he smiled weakly. "I'm lucky to have you. Otherwise, I'd truly have nothing left." Shaking my head seriously, I said, "No, you really have nothing now." Then I pulled the divorce papers from my bag. "Sign it. Our son is mine. Let's end this peacefully." His smile vanished. He stared at me, unable to believe it. "What does this mean? Didn't you say you'd wait for me forever?" Seeing his naive look, I said coldly, "Paul, I used to think you were treating me like an idiot. But now I see you're the biggest idiot." I laughed. "I could never be with you again after the day you and your mother planned to kill Danny." He was stunned. Once he understood, he slammed the table angrily and asked if Anne had been tricking him the whole time, knowing about Sarah. Anne quickly admitted it. He then questioned her angrily, claiming he had cut off contact with Sarah and hadn't harmed Danny or his mother, right? Anne stared back, amazed. He saw no fault in his actions: plotting, cheating, harming his son. Any one of these should have been enough for moral judgment. He gritted his teeth, stared hard at the divorce papers, then suddenly smirked. He declared he wouldn't sign it. They could drag it out since he had nothing left to lose. He warned Anne not to expect an easy time. He could bring her down too. Anne, calm, told him to do whatever he wanted and threatened a lawsuit. Anne spent over 3 months in court with Paul. Finally, the court granted the divorce, dividing all shared assets. This included the $500,000 Martha gave John, the shared property Sarah returned, and the money Martha later gave John for debts. When this divorce was final, Paul had no money left. In front of an official witness, he wrote an IOU note to Anne. As he wrote, his eyes reddened. He looked at Anne, asking if they still had a chance. Anne stayed silent. After about 5 minutes, he bit his lip, looked down, and said bitterly he had lost everything. His mother was sick, his sister ran off, his brother was useless, and now he was disabled and deep in debt. Every day he woke up. John, after Martha bailed him out, became addicted to gambling, piling up more debts. Outside. After the divorce, they settled the house sale and split the money between Paul and Anne. But John had stolen Paul's share and gambled it all away. Wiping his face, Paul choked up and begged Anne to let him stay near Danny, even if it meant working nearby or delivering food, just so he could see Danny. He knelt sorrowfully, covering his face, sobbing uncontrollably, unable to speak clearly. Anne pushed him away coldly, asking if he deserved it. She felt a man who tried to harm his own son had no right to talk about regret. As Anne took back the IOU, Paul's voice became frantic. "Anne, I will get out of this. You think I only lack money? I'll prove you wrong." Ignoring the sound of something crashing behind her, Anne walked away without a backward glance. She quickly sold the house, moved her parents, and finally stared at the divorce certificate in her hand, amazed. It had only been 6 months, but it felt like a whole different life. With Danny now walking, he toddled over holding a piece of bread, offering it to Anne. She took it with a smile, ruffled his hair, and watched him get excited, pulling her to play. She then took out her phone, deleted all of Paul's social media contacts, and blocked his number. For her, being reborn meant finding freedom and a chance to change her destiny. The darkness was over. She was ready for a completely new beginning. While he, weighed down by his past debts, would be stuck forever in a messy swamp.